An entitled jerk follows me around as I deliver the mail, demanding that I confess that I'm the one who lost his package that he's looking forward to. But despite the fact that I had nothing to do with this stupid package, this guy refused to take no for an answer, escalating things in a way that I honestly never expected. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, something that I simultaneously love and hate the most about being a rural mail carrier is that you are always alone. Well, this morning I received a call from a customer who said he never received a package that I had delivered yesterday. So I checked the shelves, looked up his tracking number, and saw that the package was scanned at the time I was at his stop. I then told him that I would look for his package today. Now, 90% of my route is comprised of CBU banks, and CBU stands for Cluster Box Unit. So was it possible that I accidentally misread the address on his package for a similar one in some kind of dyslexic moment? Yes, of course, I never rule out that possibility, but I know I have dyslexia. It's something I've dealt with since I was a grade schooler, and it's why I carefully read each address. Maybe a minute after I arrive at his stop, and halfway through the CBUs, a large black pickup truck pulls up directly behind my vehicle. Now, being a rural mail carrier, I rarely, if ever, see my customers face to face, but my instincts tell me that this is the guy I spoke with on the phone earlier this morning. Now, something to note here, as a contracted rural mail carrier, I drive my own personal vehicle and I don't wear a uniform. There is no way to tell from a distance that I'm a mail carrier, and there are no markings identifying my car as a mail carrier. I just look like any other hundreds of cars on the highway. This guy lives a mile and a half down the road from where his box is located, and there's no other way to get to his house and no alternate routes out from his road. Yet he pulled up right behind my vehicle from the highway, almost as if he was driving around looking for me. Now, having spent 7 years working retail, I immediately go into customer service mode and I ask him, "Hi there, how can I help you?" Well, this guy stands about a foot away from me and says, "I'm here to see about my package." Now, there's nothing wrong with that sentence itself, but there was just something sinister in his tone, and the way he held himself immediately made my skin crawl and put my nerves on edge. I told him that I wasn't done yet and I hadn't gotten to his stuff yet, but he continues to stand there unmoving, just staring me down. He doesn't go back to his truck until a kind old lady pulls up in her little car, but still he refuses to get back in his truck. Instead, he pretends to be busy with something on his phone, all while still watching my every move. As I was working, I was checking every box and paying attention to those who lived on his street or had similar house numbers as his. None of them had checked their mail since before yesterday, and none of them had received any parcels. After I finished up, I told him, "Your package isn't here." But at that moment, I get the feeling that he already knew that, and it was definitely in the way that he had spoken to me when he first got there. He then asked me with his arms crossed, staring down at me, "Well, what are you gonna do about it then?" So I tell him, "Nothing at the moment. We can wait and see if one of your neighbors mistakenly received it and turns it in, or you can just report it as missing." Now, I'm neurodivergent, and my tone during the entire interaction has been flat, neutral, and matter of fact. It's my default tone when I'm speaking, but this guy starts getting agitated. He said to me, "So you're not going to admit that you lost it?" And it's like, no, why would I? We don't know that it's lost. His neighbors haven't even checked their mail, and at this point, I'm 75% sure that he's lying, just so he can get a refund on whatever he purchased. The other 25% is either he lost it, or another member of the household checked the mail before he did and just didn't tell him about it. But thankfully for him, I don't speak these thoughts out loud. He kept pressing for me to admit that I was the one that lost his package, and he's following me as I walk around my vehicle and just refusing to leave. All the while, the kind old lady is still in her car, watching and listening to this all play out. His behavior has long since crossed the line into something that's not appropriate, and I tell him that I have not lost his package. He then says to me, "I've been standing over here minding my own business. I just want to know what you plan to do about my package." So I straight up tell him I'm not going to do anything about it. You can call the postmaster. Now please, just go about your day. Well, it's right then that he calls me a horrible name and then hops in his truck and slams the door as he speeds off. And honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that the lady was there for all of it, I'm certain he would have tried to escalate things even further. Wow, that is really scary, and I think the original poster is absolutely right. If that old lady wasn't there watching all of this go down, that guy absolutely would have tried to start a fight with you. Like, that is so crazy to me. There's just no good excuse for treating someone like that. And the fact that he was following you around and screaming at you about some mystery package that he probably lost, by the way, that is insane behavior, and I would never let that happen again without recording it. Like, this guy has nefarious intentions, and I think he would have fought you if that lady wasn't there. So hopefully you report this guy for being like really physically aggressive towards you, as well as following you around the neighborhood when you're just trying to do your job, because all of this was completely inappropriate. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/ /submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my roommate to go back home if she can't handle college after she's continuously whined about how hard college is? Because right now she's spreading a rumor that I'm a bad roommate, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, let me start off by saying this. I have been called a rude person in the past, and I blurt out things that I think without thinking about if it would hurt in front of me. And over the years, I've gotten better at it though. This year, I made it to my dream college, and I come from an extremely low-income household. So I worked on scholarships, awards, and much more to get into this college. I took student loans out to afford the remaining of my tuition. Now, for my freshman year roommate, I didn't really try to find out if I could choose or anything like that, so I just went for someone random, and the girl I'm rooming with is quite the opposite of me. She comes from a highly rich and well-to-do family, and she acts like a brat. I've constantly seen her lock down or hide her expensive jewelry as if she believes I will steal it. She constantly talks about how she misses her home, as well as the amenities and the people. For the first week or so, I understood, because I was homesick as well. But then, into the third and fourth week, I would walk into the room to see her crying about how tough it is having to do everything by herself. She complains about the cost of Ubers and having to cook and clean for herself. And by the second month, I would walk in to see her whine so many times that finally I told her the truth. I said to her, don't come to college if you aren't prepared, because if you're not, then go back home. You don't need to whine about it so much when there's a very simple solution available to you. Well, after I said that, she was visibly upset and left the room. I barely ever see her in the room anymore, and it seems like she sleeps elsewhere, and at first I didn't really care because she didn't make it a big deal. Well, yesterday I asked a guy out in one of my classes. He is cute and sweet, and we usually talked a lot during class, and I wanted to pursue the relationship. But in the end, he rejected the offer politely and said that one of the reasons was that he was not interested, and also he heard that I was generally a rude person to my roommate. I texted my roommate to ask why she was talking about me being rude, and she said she was talking to her friends about something that made her upset. However, I know for a fact she isn't friends with the guy in my class, as he mentioned that he heard this from someone neither of us knew. So right now I'm honestly pissed off, and I want to know if I'm the jerk so I can consider apologizing if I am. What should I do? Yes, you are definitely the jerk here. First and foremost, your definition of someone being a brat is completely overblown, because it doesn't sound like this lady's spoiled or like bratty in any kind of way. She's homesick and she's not used to being at college. And also, her locking up her stuff doesn't mean that she thinks you're gonna steal it. It just means that she's trying to, like, I don't know, take care of her belongings. Like, you made a bunch of assumptions about her character, when in reality, I think you're just projecting. And it also sounds like you're just jealous of her financial situation with her family. And it's like, okay, but that's like not her fault. Being out in the world on your own for the first time, no matter how rich and privileged your family is just really stressful all around. And you lack so much empathy for your roommate. She's trying her best to adapt to college. That's not gonna happen overnight because, you know, she has emotions unlike you. And the whole reason why she's not sleeping in the dorm anymore is literally because you're a jerk. She doesn't feel safe there anymore. Like, if I had a roommate in college that talked to me like that, I would leave as well. Like, that is such an awful thing to do, and I just can't believe you would treat someone like that. And honestly, things got so much worse because the original poster even clarified that this is a foreign student. And it's like, come on, how can you not have some kind of sympathy for their situation? That would have been a good opportunity to step up and be a friend, or at least try to help her feel at home. But instead you ostracized her and made her feel like garbage. And that, in my opinion, makes you sound like an awful human being. So yes, you are the jerk, and I think the bare minimum that you need to do is definitely apologize. Am I the jerk for not allowing my friend to spend the night after she had canceled her reservation at the hotel at the last moment? Because right now I feel really guilty, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 30-year-old female, and I have a friend that we will call Mia. She is staying in a different city, and she had planned to visit our town one weekend. She decided to spend the weekend with me, and I agreed and enjoyed her company at home. We had discussed all the details a few weeks in advance, and thus I revised my schedule to accommodate her visit. However, on arrival, there were a few days from when she would have stayed at my place, and this is where the story takes a rather odd turn. Actually, a few days before, she was calling me to say that she had canceled her hotel reservation as she had read about a better deal on a last-minute booking site, and she wanted to stay at my place instead, assuming that it would be more convenient and a lot easier on the pocket as well. She said that she would still come, but she had to stay an extra night because her new booking had shifted. Now, of course, I was a little surprised by this new plan. I had prepared my guest bedroom for her and rearranged the rest of my schedule to suit her original plans. After receiving some confirmation, however, I agreed to change and let her stay one more night too. Well, the day before she was due, Mia texted me and told me that her new hotel had a few issues and she would have to stay with me for 2 more nights. That way, she'd be staying at my place almost the entire week. week, and I worried because my house wasn't set up for long-term guests, and I had other commitments that I hadn't planned for anyways. Now, I had prepared myself only for the weekend trip and was not equipped with any provisions in terms of food, space, and so on, especially for such a long stay. So I told Mia that due to all of these limitations, I could not accommodate her for extra nights, and may suggest to her that she might find some other place to spend the nights that she would be spending in the city. I told her I would help her find the adjacent place to stay or just to give her recommendations. Well, Mia replied exacerbated. She said it was not fair for me to change plans at the last minute and that I was acting like a poor sport. She mentioned she was in an awful situation and that I should have done better considering I had always agreed to host her. She also tossed in there the feeling of being let down and disappointed that I wasn't acting like the better friend while in town. After that, Mia hardly spoke to me and our communication deteriorated. I felt bad because she was upset, but somehow I also felt that I had been very clear with my limits and I did offer her solutions. It's making me think and it's raising a lot of questions. Did I really do wrong by not extending her stay when I had already accommodated so much on the shortened visit? Am I the jerk here? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because it really sounds like Mia was trying to take advantage of your kindness. Like, it really does sound like you moved around your entire schedule to try and make this work for her, and she's turning around and acting like, oh my god, I can't believe you're changing plans last minute. But it's like, lady, are you kidding me right now? You've literally done that like what, twice now for the original poster? They scheduled you for a specific amount of time, and for you to be like, oh yeah, I need to stay what, 3 more days? That won't be a problem, right? But it's like, yes, that is going to be a problem. You can't just drop that on someone and expect them to be okay with it. So no, I do not think you're the jerk here, and I think the way that Mia was acting is incredibly immature. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not being comfortable with an older person in my class, as he is constantly bragging about being born in the 90s and is putting down anybody who disagrees with him in any kind of way? Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm almost 25 years old, and recently I went back to a community college to get my life back on track. Most of my classmates are younger than me, which is to be expected, but there is this one guy who's 33 who was born in 1991, and he constantly brags about being a 90s kid. He comes to class late every single day with the same cringe excuse. He would just say that the 90s were so much better than this garbage. Whenever the class discusses mental health or current events, he'll just interrupt and call us woke or Gen Z garbage. He is also dismissive of anything related to pop culture. For example, when we talked about the upcoming Harry Potter reboot on HBO Max, he laughed at me for saying I grew up with the movies and books. He bragged that I was too young to experience them when they were first released. He also judges me for meeting friends outside of college, saying I'm gone past the age of going out for beers with a few mates, and I should be investing my time into more important things in life. And when we're trying to study or just do classwork, he would be blasting music from the 90s, namely hip-hop or early Eminem, or just watching YouTube videos while the rest of us are doing our assignments. If one of us asked him to turn it down or suggests he does work like the rest of us, he will just call you a stupid kid or Gen Z trash. He also rants about how this generation is too soft and needs to man up, and how today's movies and TV shows are all cringe, and just constantly comparing anything to the 90s, and how the 90s is always superior. Our teacher asked us to be nicer to him and understand that he's a lot older than everybody in the room. So I did, and I accepted him on social media, but his Instagram and WhatsApp is literally just 90s nostalgia on repeat, as well as football and memes. So am I the jerk for finding this guy very cringy and a massive nuisance? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, you're definitely not the jerk, and this guy's a moron for acting this way. In my personal opinion, no one in their right mind should ever be like, oh yeah, my generation is so much better than your generation. Especially if you're gonna use it in like a divisive tone, or they try to act like they're better than you based on the year that they were born. Like, I've seen people act that way, but then it's like, why are you doing that? No one's impressed by your weird anecdotes, and you're not making any friends around you, especially if you keep calling people stupid kids, while also saying, oh yeah, you guys are too soft, you need to man up. So no, you're definitely not the jerk for finding this guy annoying. And if I was in your shoes, I would be complaining to the professor and saying that this guy is interrupting my studies, because truly, that's exactly what he's doing. Am I the jerk for calling out my cousin for being a terrible nurse and harming her patient in ways that she might not realize? Because right now, my entire family is kind of against me on this, and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so every year, my extended family gets together and we have a family picnic. It is a lot of fun, and we typically have a great time. However, it was very different this time around. My cousin, who's 32 years old, was in attendance, and typically whenever we see her, she likes to tell and rant about her job, as she works as a nurse. And here's the story that she told this time around. A woman came into her hospital and needed an IV placed placed. The problem was that said patient was very needle phobic and let my cousin know ahead of time. The patient then proceeds to do coping mechanisms that she had learned, which was to close her eyes, take some deep breaths, and hold her sister's hand while also crying like a baby. Now, my cousin's opinion on the situation was that it was totally ridiculous, and she let her patient absolutely have it. In her words, she sternly told the patient to grow up and that her antics were ridiculous. The patient's sister then explained that she had a genuine phobia and to please be patient with her, but my cousin responded that it wasn't her job to deal with anybody's irrational fears and to not waste anybody else's time. My cousin placed the IV in while the patient was absolutely hysterical, with my cousin eventually leaving the room. Later, the patient's sister requested to not have my cousin as her nurse ever again. At some point, my cousin was confronted by the sister, who called her a nasty troll for talking to a patient in that way and berating somebody who was going through a hard time and was facing her fears. But my cousin doubled down and told her that if the patient's fear is that bad, then she would need to seek therapy for it and not waste everybody else's resources. Now, here's where I become very concerned. The patient's sister says that her sister has been doing cognitive behavioral therapy, and she's been doing this for a while to manage her phobia and her medical anxiety, and had been making some really good progress. But now, the patient is refusing to seek future medical treatment and says that she would never open up about her fear ever again and is potentially regressing in her treatment, which she blamed my cousin for. Now, for some background, I'm a therapist and I specialize in cognitive behavioral therapy. Many of my patients have phobias and medical anxiety. I've seen firsthand how debilitating it all can be, and I've had a few patients in the past who've regressed because of traumatic moments, and it seems likely that this would happen to the patient in this story. Well, my cousin proclaimed that it was ridiculous for the patient's sister to claim that it's her fault for the patient regressing in her treatment. But I told my cousin that yes, it was kind of her fault. I told her that she chastised someone who was doing her best to overcome a struggle, and because of that, the patient would potentially never seek medical care again, or even be honest with her medical team. Well, after I said that, a lot of fighting ensued, and now some family members are on my cousin's side, saying that she was doing her job and that I made her feel bad, while others are on my side, saying that I was in the right and had the experience to call her out. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk here at all. Your cousin is a massive jerk, and the fact that she's a nurse at a hospital and acting like this, in my opinion, is proof that she should not be in that profession. And you know what? If anybody knows what they're talking about in this situation, it would be you. So for people to seriously side with your cousin and be like, oh my god, I can't believe you would talk to her like that, that in my opinion is completely insane and so uncalled for. Am I the jerk for not putting my partner on the deed of my house? Because right now she is very upset and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I've been with my partner for 19 years. We have 2 kids together and we are unmarried. Now, for starters, I had a really awful childhood. Foreclosures, evictions, divorces, psycho stepdads, and a strung out mom. Ever since I was a little kid, literally since the age of 8, I dreamed of owning a home free and clear so I would never have to experience that kind of nightmare ever again. My partner had a lousy childhood too, although not quite a horror story like mine was. After graduation, she was buried in debt, and her degree didn't make her very employable, which is right around when we met, and she didn't think much or at all about real estate. By the time I was 25, I had bought 2 houses. I promptly lost them both in the 2008 market crash, and then in 2011, there was an unbelievable opportunity. I cashed out my $60,000 from my 401k retirement account, and I paid cash for an absolute dump downtown. I spent all the money from my retirement account to buy the house and fix it up, and when I ran out of money, I borrowed some more. Remodeling the house wasn't easy, and my partner was with me through all of this. She labored and worked, but it was always my money. When the house was finished, and we'd been living there for a few years, she got pregnant with our first kid. I stayed home to watch him during the day, and I worked at night. And eventually, the second kid came along. So for 9 years, I took care of the kids all day, and I worked in restaurants at night. We always split the household expenses 50-50, despite her making 3 times as much money as me. So she would give me the money, and I would pay for everything. Well, a little over a year ago, she started feeling dissatisfied with our relationship, and so we separated, but not really. She is renting a house from a friend, and we're still spending a few nights a week together. We still have family time with the kids, and it's mostly the same as it's always been. Over the last 6 months, we've been doing some therapy. She's got so many resentments, and so many are super valid, but the only issue I can't see her way on is that she feels that she should own about half the house, and I just can't see how that's fair for me. I paid cash for it 13 years ago, all before we even had kids. I never exploited the situation, and I never charged her rent. It was never an issue, and she never mentioned wanting to be part owner of the house. I really want to reconcile with her, and I love her her very much. It's just that I have no support network, no family to turn to, and no retirement savings. My house is worth rock bottom in my city, and I have a 7 and 9-year-old who really need me. The only stability in my life comes from owning my home. I just can't risk putting her on the deed and having her leave again. So am I the jerk for not wanting to do this? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. You put all of your money into this. And sure, she did help out with like working on it and all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, it was your money on the line. And in my opinion, unless you two get married or something like that, then I don't think it's a good idea to put her on the deed. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.